Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Mini Books Podcast with your host Gloria and Rogan, and today we are excited to dive into Special Book with You. We picked this one because it has really important lessons to share and we can't wait to talk about them. So let's get started.
Ever get the feeling that loving yourself is way easier said than done? Today we're going to really deep dive into that whole idea.
Okay.
Looking at this book by Kamal, Ravikant.
Okay.
Love yourself. Your life depends on it.
Yeah.
I mean, the title alone kind of makes you stop right.
It does. It grabs your attention for sure.
Yeah, and for some people, it really might feel like their life depends on it.
Exactly.
And we'll be sharing some excerpts from the book. Yeah. Giving you a little window into his own personal journey and the methods he used to completely turn his life around.
Absolutely. And that turnaround is pretty remarkable, especially when you consider where he started.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy who had it all, a successful entrepreneur.
Right at the top of his game.
Silicon Valley. And yet he still found himself hitting rock bottom.
Totally. Heartbreak, suicidal thoughts. It makes you wonder if someone like that can go through that. How many of us are struggling with the same thing?
Exactly. It's more common than you think, right?
Totally.
And I think what's so striking is how simple his method sounds on the surface.
Okay.
Basically, he committed to repeating this phrase, I love myself, consistently.
Right.
But the thing is, it's not about forcing yourself to believe it instantly.
Right.
It's more about creating a new neural pathway. You wouldn't believe it, but it's kind of like learning to ride a bike.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Explain the bike riding connection here.
Okay, so think about that initial awkwardness, those wobbly wheels, the almost inevitable falls.
Right.
Learning to ride a bike takes time, repetition, and with each attempt, those neural pathways in your brain are firing and wiring together. They're making new connections.
Interesting.
And self-love in Ravikant's approach works similarly. It's about consistent practice that rewires those deep-seated thought patterns.
So instead of telling ourselves we're going to magically wake up and feel super confident and worthy, it's more about consistently showing up and putting in the work.
Absolutely.
Like training for a marathon rather than wishing for a faster mile time.
Precisely. And the more you repeat those self-affirming phrases, the deeper those neural pathways become ingrained in your brain. And eventually self-love becomes a more automatic response.
Interesting. The fascinating part is your brain doesn't necessarily care if that phrase, I love myself, is true initially. It just responds to the repetition and starts to build those connections.
So it's like the act of doing it more so than actually believing it.
In a way, yeah. And Ravikant himself admitted that he didn't even fully believe it at first.
Right.
But he stuck with it, and incredibly, within a month, he saw a huge shift.
That's incredible.
That speed of transformation is something that really resonates with people.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the brain's incredible ability to adapt and rewire itself.
Yeah.
Given the right input.
So it's like he flipped a switch within himself.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just an internal change either.
Right.
He described how people around him started reacting to him differently.
Situations seemed to work out more smoothly.
Yeah.
Almost as if by acknowledging his own worth, he shifted something fundamental in his reality.
Interesting. Right.
So how does one actually put this radical self-love into practice?
Yeah.
That's what I really want to know. That's what I'm curious about.
Right.
So Ravikant doesn't just leave us hanging with this whole self-love concept.
Yeah.
He actually lays out some pretty practical techniques.
He does.
In the book, right?
Yeah.
Almost like a toolkit for rewiring our brains.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did any of those stand out to you, in particular?
Absolutely. And I think what's so appealing to readers is that these techniques are things you can start using immediately.
Okay.
He dives into 3 key practices: the mental loop meditation and the mirror technique.
Okay, let's break those down a little bit.
Okay.
Starting with the mental loop.
Okay.
It
does what it says on the tin, right?
Yeah, pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
But what makes it so powerful?
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
The concept is simple.
Okay.
It's about repeating the phrase, I love myself, as frequently as you can throughout the day.
Okay.
But the key here, and this is what trips people up,
Okay.
is that it's not just about the words themselves.
Right.
It's about tapping into the actual feeling of love.
So it's not enough to just go through the motions.
Exactly.
You're really aiming to embody that feeling
Yes.
of self-love.
It sounds like a mental workout.
It does, right?
It is in a way.
Yeah.
Think of it like exercising a muscle.
You haven't used in a while.
Okay.
At first, it might feel strange, even a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But as you continue to flex that muscle,
Right.
in this case, the muscle of self-love, it gradually becomes stronger.
Okay.
And feels more natural.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got the mental loop.
Okay.
Second technique, meditation.
Okay.
I have to admit, like, meditation isn't always my cup of tea.
Sure.
It can feel a little intimidating sometimes.
Understandable.
Did Ravikant offer any guidance
He did.
for skeptics like me?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I appreciate about his approach
Yeah.
is its simplicity.
Okay.
He advocates for a very straightforward meditation practice.
Yeah.
7 minutes of sitting quietly,
Okay.
visualizing this warm, radiant light.
Flowing into your head, breathing in this feeling of love,
Right.
and breathing out whatever thoughts or emotions arise.
Okay, so nothing too complicated.
Oh, exactly.
No mantras or anything.
No, exactly. Just your breath and that visualization of light.
7 minutes, even I can handle that.
There you go.
Okay, so mental loop meditation.
Yeah.
Now, for what sounds like the most intriguing technique,
Okay.
the mirror technique.
This one definitely raises eyebrows.
It does.
It might sound a little strange at first,
Okay.
but there's a powerful psychology behind it.
Okay.
The mirror technique involves looking directly into your own eyes in the mirror and saying, I love myself.
Wow.
And the act of holding that eye contact with yourself forces a level of vulnerability, a confrontation with your own reflection.
Yeah, it's very exposing.
It is. And when paired with the repetition of that affirmation, it can be surprisingly impactful.
Wow.
In shifting those deep-seated beliefs we have about ourselves.
It's almost like staring down your inner critic.
Sorry to interrupt you guys. If you're enjoying this podcast, then don't forget to check out our official YouTube channel, Mini Books Podcast, and subscribe for more great podcasts like this one. Exactly.
That voice that tells you you're not good enough.
Yes.
Not worthy enough.
You hit the nail on the head
Yeah.
by consistently practicing these techniques.
Okay. Yeah.
Whether it's the mental loop meditation or the mirror technique,
Right.
you're essentially creating new mental grooves, making self-love a more automatic response over time.
So it all ties back to that rewiring
Exactly.
we were talking about.
Yeah.
But what about those of us who
Yeah.
struggle to believe those affirmations at first?
Sure.
I imagine there are a lot of people listening right now thinking, like, I can't just magically make myself love myself.
Right.
It's like we're trying to, like, convince our brains to change their tune.
Totally.
But that inner critic can be pretty persistent.
Oh, yeah.
What did Ravikant have to say about, like, dealing with that resistance?
Well, I think it's important to remember that even Ravikant himself struggled to believe those affirmations at first. He talks about how our minds are wired to cling to those familiar patterns, even if those patterns aren't serving us.
Right.
And the beauty of these techniques is that they kind of work on a deeper level.
Okay.
They bypass that conscious resistance. It's about patiently creating new grooves in the brain.
So don't get discouraged if it feels a little awkward or forced at first.
Exactly. It's a process.
Trust the process.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that his book goes beyond just like surface level self-love.
Yeah.
He kind of dives into some deeper psychological territory.
He does. He explores how our past experiences, particularly those from childhood, can shape our present day beliefs about ourselves.
Totally. And often in ways that we're not even conscious of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One concept that really resonated with me is what he calls childhood strings.
Childhood strings.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are childhood strings?
So imagine these strings as like invisible threads connecting our present selves to specific moments, emotions, beliefs that we formed in childhood. So for example, if you were constantly criticized growing up, you might internalize that and carry that with you into adulthood, even if it's no longer true. And Ravikant suggests this really powerful exercise where you visualize your inner child, that younger version of yourself, and you shower them with love, acceptance, validation that they may have lacked.
It's almost like going back and reparenting yourself in a way.
In a way, yeah. It's about recognizing that those early experiences, while they've shaped us, they don't have to define us.
Right. It's not the end-all be-all.
Exactly.
He also talks about this shift from a mindset of life happens to me to one of life happens through me.
Love that.
What does that mean?
It's about recognizing our own agency, our ability to choose how we respond to situations, rather than feeling like victims of circumstance.
Right, so taking back control.
Exactly.
That's a really empowering shift.
It is.
Instead of feeling stuck, you start to see opportunities for growth.
Absolutely.
Let's be honest, though. Does all this loving yourself stuff actually lead to tangible results?
That's the question, right?
Yeah. Can it really change your life?
I think what's so compelling about his work is the sheer number of people who have experienced profound transformations in their lives through these methods.
It makes you wonder what role self-belief played in their journey.
Huge. Right. And while we can't attribute someone's success solely to self-love, it's clear that believing in yourself, even when faced with challenges, can fuel resilience, determination.
So it's not like a magic pill?
No.
But it's like a crucial ingredient.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he really emphasizes that self-love isn't about achieving some perfect state of bliss. It's a commitment to showing up for yourself, flaws and all.
So it's a journey.
It is.
Not a destination.
It's a practice.
This has been a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, it has.
A lot to think about.
Lots to unpack.
Where can our listeners go if they want to learn more about Kamal Ravikant and his book?
Well, the book itself is a great place to start.
Okay.
It's called Love Yourself.
Right.
Like your life depends on it.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive today.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to dive into more book insights and key learnings, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Mini Books Podcast, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We're back every Sunday at 9 a.m. with new books and more to learn from. Until next time, take care, keep learning, and keep growing. Remember, this is Mini Books Podcast.